Hey guys, JK Samus here with another video. I know it's been a while, but I'm back and I'm back with a tier list. So, so before we get started, I just really want to go over sort of the parameters, the certain criterias we're going to use to evaluate these killers, and um, certain rules, right? So for the most part, we're not going to consider add-ons. We are consider meta perks, perks that you can, like corrupt and pop, barbecue, things like that. So like meta perks are available, but we're not including add-ons because that's a whole nother tier list. There's some, killers that are at the C, almost D level, and then they can be bumped up into B, jump a couple tiers above. So and then I wanted to go over some categories on how we're going to evaluate these killers, and one of them being lethality. How fast can you down a survivor? How fast can you end a chase? Basically, before they start looping you for however long and just wasting your time. So there's lethality. Second thing is map pressure. Can you pressure multiple survivors at once? What that means is that do you have fast travel? Are you in some way affecting all the survivors? Making sure that they're not just able to get gens done for free. Things of that nature. Another thing is slowdown. Does this killer have any sort of slowdown mechanic built into his kit? Right? Does it waste the survivor's time, so that they just can't just walk freely or just slam gens, gen rush you? Another thing that we're gonna evaluate killers by is, again, just being able to like track, just to be able to find survivors. I think that's also very, very important. As someone who has trouble finding survivors, just my vision is just so bad when it comes to this game that I often have to use sound to sort of like hear the survivors that are there. So the very first killer, let's just go in order. Trapper. So Trapper, is does he have lethality? Somewhat, somewhat. Obviously, if someone gets snared in a trap, you can go for the grab, or you can swing at them, right? So they're down in that respect. But I wouldn't say that he's too strong on the lethality part. Does he have a lot of map pressure? Not really. He's very slow. I mean, he just has normal walking speed, so he's not going to be able to fly from one end of the map to the other. So he's actually a very territorial killer. So he's really, really good at staying put in one place and defending that area, playing on his home turf, than he is constantly zipping back and forth between generators, or one end of the map to the other. uh, and in terms of slowdown, does this character slow down? No, not really. Not really. I mean, like, you might have some survivors, disarm your trap. Um, but ultimately, he's not taking up too much of your time. It's kind of weird, but he is a very territorial killer. He stays in really one area. If he ventures out, you're kind of pulling away his time. I mean, disarming traps don't take too long, and you can only set up so many traps, right? It's not like Hag, where it takes up your time. You have to like worry about the traps, and if you're just what's it called, crouching, and crouching, you're not gonna really be very, very fast. So he doesn't really have much slowdown either. Is he able to find survivors only if they step on a trap or they disarm a trap, right? So all in all, as much as I like Trapper, he's just not at a very high tier. And there are moments when you can snowball as Trapper. um so so that is just not consistent enough to for me to put him on a very, very high. And another thing about Trapper is, without like he has one fundamental flaw, is that he only carries one trap and can only hold one trap with his power, right? With his vanilla power. If they upgraded that, that definitely puts him up, like a from a C minus, right? So I'm gonna put him at a C minus, but he can be a C if they tweak some of his numbers in terms of being able to hold traps, or what's it called, hold traps, and like holding traps, right? Yeah, and starting traps too. That's what I meant to say, starting traps. So if they tweak some of his numbers, he can go up like a symbol, but overall, he his. I'm not saying that he needs a complete rework. I like the concept of his traps, and it's a nice mechanic, but I just feel like there's a lot of counters to it. People can bring maps. People can just have one survivor out of the survivor team. Keep an eye on the trapper, follow the trapper. Disarming his traps, and that is basically the counter to trapper. And it's really hard for trapper to do anything, let alone snowball, if you always have someone spying on the trapper. That's why object of obsession is very toxic against this guy. It's very difficult to get away with doing well with trapper when there's just so many counters to him, and he's actually just his power is just not very strong. Though it's a very nice mechanic. I love playing trapper, but I know exactly where he belongs. So until they do something with him, he's staying at C minus for me. So the next killer we have Wraith. So Wraith is very interesting, right? So unfortunately, we're not gonna be talking about the add-ons, but he has like a lot of like strongest add-ons, I think, for killers in the game, right? They do kind of like broken things, like wall hacks, or just like fly around the map. But when it comes to the lethality, he's really good at getting that first hit, but the second hit is very difficult, and you have to sort of play if you really want to play Wraith, you have to sort of let people get away, right? You have to like sort of like know when to understand that you're not going to be able to down this person, because he's basically just an M1 killer that can get that surprise hit, but if they're not injured, they're probably going to go down, right? So even with the most meta perks in the game, Wraith is actually very add-on reliant. So they probably would have to just change his numbers when he's cloaked, when he's stealth, so that he can go faster. I think playing without Windstorm is just so painful, right? It should just be part of his power, part of his kit. Now, moving on to map pressure, is this person able to fly around the map? I think he does have some amount of speed to him, right? When he's cloaked, is it enough? I would say he's not completely he's not like the other M1 killers that they can't fast travel, right? So he does have some amount of fast travel, so we'll give him that. But in terms of let's just say slowdown, not very much. And in terms of, let's see, finding survivors, interestingly enough, you're kind of able to find survivors just because you're undetectable and they don't really see you coming, and so they think they're like they might be safe out in the open, or you're coming from a different angle, and so they're not like crouching or hiding behind a tree. So you're kind of able to find survivors a lot. So that's why I bring perks like Nurse's Calling or something like that, because you'll just be walking around in the map, and then you've already hit somebody, probably with Sloppy Butcher, right? Sloppy Butcher is also a very good perk on him, because it doesn't make you commit to chases. But you'll see somebody maybe self-carrying, or with healing themselves with a med kit, and you can get that cheeky hit that you desperately need, because he's just not good when it comes to looping. Or not saying that he's not good, but is there's he's just very vanilla when it comes to that. So I'm gonna put Wraith overall. I think he has a lot of potential to bump up. When it comes to his add-ons, he can probably be at a B minus or even a B with the right add-ons. But just as the vanilla character, even with meta perks, he still falls behind amongst the other killers. Okay. Next up, we have Billy. So Billy, he's the strongest. He's the strongest. Let me finish. He's the strongest base game killer. So so you get like you only get Trapper, Wraith, and Billy, I believe, right, in the base game, and Billy has an insta down. He has which ups his ability to his lethality, right? He has map pressure, right? He can zoom from one end of the map to the other. Very, very nice. Um, does he have a lot of slowdown? No, not so much, right? But he saves a lot of time by just being able to zoom one end of the map, right? And let's see, is he able to find survivors? No, but we there's definitely perks that can do that, right? But the most important thing out of those four categories that I named, like map awareness, slowdown, tracking, and lethality has to be the most important one. So with the meta perks, Billy, that allow him to try and find survivors, is he add-on dependent? I think now, the way that he is right now, he's not, I wouldn't say dependent on add-ons, but hell, it makes a noticeable difference for sure. Like most add-ons, right? So, but Billy, I want to put him in A minus. I want to put him in A minus because after his rework with, I mean, we're not even considering add-ons right now, but just the way that the chainsaw works right now, I think he's a solid. He belongs in A. Could he be a little stronger without, with like a little tweak of the numbers? Could he, bump himself up into, like A plus tier with the right build and all that stuff? Yeah, of course. So I think the A minus spot is a really, really good spot for Billy. Next up is Nurse. Well, Nurse is probably, I want to say, probably the strongest killer in the game. Right? I think most people would agree with that. I mean, the only close second would be like Spirit. Now let's go over the categories. Lethality, is the Nurse lethal? Very much so. Can pretty much ignore pallets, windows, the defenses that normally, excuse me, a survivor would have against a killer. She can absolutely disregard that, just go right past that. Map pressure. Can she fly around the map decently well? I'm not gonna say she's the fastest. Obviously, her move speed doesn't help, but you can charge up your blinking and travel a real nice distance. So I'll give him like a medium score. For that. Does she have slowdown? No, not at all. And then tracking. Is she able to find survivors? Not terribly well, but again, we can always just use meta perks to help cover up those weaknesses. But because of her downing power, because of just the fact that there's very little counterplay that you have against a really good Nurse, she belongs in S tier. And what's interesting about Nurse is that the best survivors that are able to run the Nurse, or loop the Nurse in a way, are the survivors that actually have played Nurse. Because if you have played Nurse, you will know, you can judge the distance really, really well by how long she holds her power. And so now you can absolutely play against Nurse. But even if you were a good Nurse player and you're playing as the survivor, if another good Nurse player it's still super hard for the survivor to come out on top. So uh she takes a lot of work to learn, right? Has probably the highest ceiling out of all the killers, right? Skill ceiling for all the killers. So she belongs in S tier. If she was really easy to learn, I think the player base would complain, and have her reworked or somewhat. But the fact that it takes a lot of effort to learn Nurse and to be good at her, and people respect that, right? They're not as salty when they lose to a Nurse, because like they're probably thinking like, oh, this guy put in a lot of hours. This guy, it's not just some sort of brain dead killer, as some of these killers can be in terms of their mechanics. But yeah, so Nurse belongs in S tier. I think most people can agree with that. Let's move on to Mikey Myers. So Lethality. So the way that I want to kind of grade him on Lethality is that I would say he has like a C plus B minus level of lethality, right? Because you can still run him like any other M1 killer, right? If he catches you out in the open, yeah, sure, you get down, But at the end of the day, he's still an M1 killer, and M1 killers still have to go through pallets and windows, which there's none of his power actually helps against that, right? Obviously, you can make make a build cater to with meta perks. You can make a build that can cater to Myers, absolutely, and obviously his add-ons are just kind of like broken in the game. They just allow you to Mori. Obviously, we're not going to consider that in evaluating him, but so lethality, he's kind of like at the mid-tier level in my opinion. I know some people are like, but you get the insta down, but you still get he's still very, very vulnerable to pallets and windows. So bring bamboozle, right? So map pressure, nope. M1 killer, not gonna have a lot of map pressure. Let's see, slowdown, nope. You're gonna have to rely on perks. What's it called, tracking, nope. He's just very vanilla in that sense, right? But and the one thing you really got to know about Trapper is that I'm not Trapper, but Michael Myers, is that sometimes he can get pretty much cucked, right? Like he sometimes stays at tier 1 a little bit way too long, and just by the time he gets to tier 2, he's literally down 2 gens, and he's still working on trying to down somebody. Yikes, right? Michael Myers without any add-ons, right? So like in terms of Michael Myers, you definitely want something to slow down the game, because sometimes in order to make your games more consistent, because that tier 1, if depending on the map and how good the survivor is, some survivors will just like let you stalk them like forever, and then some of them will just basically hide in front of you, try to waste your time as much as possible. So I think he has the potential, right? I'll keep him at C. But yeah, I'll keep it at C with no add-ons, with meta perks. Some people might say that he's above. He's at least at like a C plus, but yeah, he's just so vanilla. You know what I mean? He can expose you, but there's a lot of drawback to him as a killer. Okay, so moving on, we have Hack. Is this killer lethal? Not so much, right? Just a M1 killer. This is killer have a lot of map pressure. Sort of. She's still like Trapper. She's very territorial, right? So within that territory, she can. She has some amount of map pressure, so it's like low mid tier. I would say like a C plus in map pressure, right? Um, we're not considering add-ons again, and let's go for like tracking. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. I think she has some amount of level of tracking compared to these other killers. But what was it? There was lethality. There was map pressure, tracking. Oh, slowdown. Well, slowdown in terms of it depends on how the survivors are wanting to play, right? If they want to be crouching all game without urban evasion, they're slowing down their process, right? So um, there's that. So she does have a little bit of slowdown compared to these other guys. Another thing to note is that same way that Trapper has that counterplay of someone just harassing him, always spying on him, trying to disarm his traps. You can do that same thing with Hag. They don't even really need a flashlight. They just need to be aware of the where the trap is, set it off, and then run away. And it's really really annoying as Hag, right? You probably have an easier time than Trapper, but at the end of the day, um, she still has that amount of like counterplay, right? However, because a lot of the community doesn't see it that way. They always just wanted to like gen rush you and slam gens. So by the time that maybe they get like 3 gens done, pretty easy, right? Hag, with corrupt intervention, has basically the setup, and the moment she downs one person. You feel that pressure, no matter how many gens you've done. You feel that pressure. Are you and it's like a covert ops operation, right? Or it's like yeah, it's like covert ops, and you're literally you're trying to find a flashlight, or if you don't have a flashlight, you're crouching everywhere, and you want to try and save that person, or we're just gonna let that person die. So you feel that pressure. Once she downs somebody, she'll pick them up and put her deep. If the Hag is good, put them deeper into her territory, where she can fight. So I wanna say her power. Her power, without add-ons but with meta perks, I would say put her at, let's see, I want to say B. I want to say at B tier. You know, um, does that sound right? Nah, I think she has one of the most resilient powers. I would keep her at B plus. Um, hmm. Maybe I'm just biased because I don't see too many extremely good hags. Uh, Maybe because a lot of hag players, they don't find it really really fun. Uh, but yeah, I would. Do I think she's at B tier? It just really depends if you're playing against good survivors that know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Um, can Hag be oppressive? You know what? I kind of want to put her in A. Uh, you know what? I want to keep her at B plus because I'm considering the fact that if players know how to play against a Hag, it's yeah. So her power is really resilient, but at the same time, if if the survivors know the counter to Hag in terms, not in terms of like the flashlight, but just the counter play to Hag, I would say she's at B plus. Otherwise, I would put her at A minus. You because when they just let you do whatever you want, you pretty much, that's the game, you know. But I want to keep her at B plus, even with all the meta perks and all that. Let's see. So let's go with Doctor. Is he lethal? Mm, not terribly so. M1 killer. Does he have mana pressure? Not very fast. Can't really jump from one end. Uh, does he have slowdown? A little bit. Yeah, he does. He puts people in madness, right? Which they have to get out of. So um, that's important to note, right? That takes up time. It prevents them from doing generators if they don't get out of madness. Uh, Tracking. Oh, absolutely. He's probably the most. He's the strongest character when it comes to tracking people. He reveals the area. His power allows him to do that. So, um, in terms of going back to lethality, right? I want to say that he has some amount of lethality. I'll take that back. More so than a lot of the M1 killers in a way, because he's able to prevent them from vaulting the window or dropping down the pallet. But that really just depend on the servers at the time, right? So it just sometimes you're at the mercy of dedicated servers, and the shock that was supposed to prevent them from vaulting or slamming down a pallet goes through, and you're just you've wasted. It punishes you so much. So yeah, I don't really like that. um but I do find him pretty good. So I would put him, let's see. Hmm. I almost want to put him at like C plus. Yeah, because he's respectable, right? He takes a certain amount of skill, and he's not overly powerful, but he has tools, ways to deal with like survivors, um, and the fact that he's able to get into the chase almost immediately due to the fact of his power. I would keep him at C plus. Yeah, that's my evaluation of Doctor. So um, let's go with Huntress. Okay, is she lethal? Oh hell yeah! Oh hell yeah! If you can land your hatchets pretty consistently, uh, what the advantage of Huntress is the fact that you don't have to wipe off your hatchet after you throw your hatchet and land it, right? Most killers after their M1 attack, all killers with their M1 attack have to wipe off the blood. Survivor gets like a 2-second speed boost, and that's enough for them to jump into the next loop, right? As Huntress, all you have to do is the wind up for the hatchet throw. So in terms of lethality, she's actually, I would say, at a mid-high level of lethality. Let's see, map pressure. No, not so much. She's she moves a little bit slower than the M1 killers, right? She moves at 110. Let's see. Um, let's see. Tracking, not terribly. In fact, the survivors get to track you because of your lullaby. Let's see. I always forget this one. What was it again? It's map pressure, tracking, lethality. Oh, slowdown. No, not so much. Right? No real way to slow you down. So all in all, with the meta perks for Huntress, they usually, the one slowdown perk, if it is considered a slowdown perk, is like corrupt intervention. I don't know if you want to always like consider corrupt intervention as a slowdown perk. It can be in some games when you get a good corrupt intervention, but I don't know if you've ever had a bad corrupt intervention where like you spawn in the middle of the map, and then and then there's a bunch of just random gens blocked off, and it's just like, oh, I guess I'm just down a perk. So sometimes corrupt intervention does buy you time, but it for the most part will buy you um, usually spacing, you'll run into the survivors more. That's more reliable to say. And um, yeah, so it pushes the survivors towards you, ideally, right? Uh, so most of the time, Huntress players will use tracking because they have a lot of lethality. And all they really need, like most of the killers in this game, right? Most of these high tier killers is they need ways to find you, right? And know what you are, because once they find where you are, it is very challenging to escape them without some sort of like uh resource, right? and and the fact that Huntress can shoot through the windows and the pallets, things like that. If you know your timing for your windup, and you're good at guessing and knowing where the survivor will go, then yeah, you're pretty solid. You're pretty solid. So I want to put Huntress in B tier because of that. I do believe that Hag is above Huntress in that respect, just because just her natural kit, right? And I don't know if she. The thing is, like, Huntress is very map dependent too, right? She doesn't do well in indoor maps, and so Hag, yes, everyone kind of gets gimped with larger maps, or I should say killers get gimped with larger maps, but at least with Hag, you're more of a territorial killer, so you don't play on the map's terms, right? You play on your own terms. You try to create a scenario, an environment where it's completely hostile. So Huntress can't really do that. She's at the mercy of the map, right? Whereas Hag is more resilient, more at the mercy of good players, or like Swifts that know what they're doing, right? So let's see. Next up we have the Cannibal. So Lethality. Let's go. Let's say it. Let's say it right now. His rework has made him pretty formidable. Uh, he does have the insta down chainsaw, so we'll respect that, and that puts him up there, right? And then he has like 3 charges of that, so they're probably gonna be pre-dropping those pallets. Okay, but he still has problems with windows. Um, so his lethality, I would say, is mid tier, at the very least. What about map pressure? Not so much, in terms of map pressure, because he can't fly around the map like Billy can. So let's go with just no map pressure at all, really. And slowdown, no, not so much. Tracking, not so much. So all in all, I feel that he belongs in C plus. The rework made him good, right? I think he's stronger than Myers for sure, obviously, because the one thing that Cannibal has above Myers is the fact that he's able to get through pallets really easily, right? So, and then he always has that insta down. So I would put him in C plus. Notice how a lot of these M1 killers are in C plus. Hag is probably the only really one exception. All right, Freddy. Oh boy, Freddy. Man, I hate you so much, Freddy. But let's get into it. Lethality. Can he end a chase with Dream Snares? Yes, Dream Snares will definitely help him do that. Kind of in the same fashion as Clown bottles, but the fact that Freddy can just spam those Dream Snares like it's nothing makes him much better than Clown. So he's in terms of lethality, I would say like mid level. It's good enough for them to have to drop the pallet, um, and even vaulting through windows if there's a dream snare there, it'll eventually slow them down. So yeah, I would say mid level of lethality. Map pressure. Yeah, he can jump on a gen, right? One of the most oppressive perk builds on Freddy is just like a normal perk build on most killers is a barbecue pop. That's already so oppressive, and it doesn't even sound like it should be that oppressive, but because of his kit, he's able to just fly to a gen. Oh, it's almost done, pop it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just as absolutely absurd. I'm sure you can just win games off just the fact of having barbecue and pop. So yeah, map pressure, it's there, right? And guess who's gonna be at that gen? Probably a survivor, right? Trying to get it done. Um, let's go with slowdown. He has like a little bit of slowdown, right? He puts you in the dream world. People end up trying to snap each other out of it. Go for alarm clocks. Some amount of slowdown, so that's still something, right? It still eats up seconds on people's time. So I would consider it like just like a low mid tier slowdown. And does he have tracking? Somewhat. If you throw like dream snares, in certain areas, that's pretty good. Another thing to note is that he's kind of resistant to like a meta perk called borrowed time, right? If the survivor is sleeping, then like they don't have the terror. He doesn't have a terror radius, so borrowed time doesn't proc. So that's another thing to know. So all in all, Freddy isn't exactly crazy special. Like he doesn't have some insane power per se. It's just that he has all these little mechanics that allow him to be just very efficient at being an M1 killer, right? He's able to fast travel. He's able to have something for looping. You know what I mean? To stop the loop. So he's just very efficient as a M1 killer, and it's good enough in my opinion and the thing is too, he doesn't require that much skill to play, because what are you gonna do? You spam a bunch of dream snares, right? And then you just gonna fly to that gen. It's pretty straightforward, his gameplay. But I would keep Freddy probably. Yeah, I'll keep him at A minus, right? And this is not in any particular order. I don't think like Billy or Freddy, or Billy is better than Freddy, or Freddy is better than Billy. It's very minute, So this is not in any exact order. All right, moving on. All right, Piggy, Miss Piggy. All right, lethality. Yeah, I mean those traps are highly unreliable, like pretty unreliable, right? And most of the time they're not gonna explode on the survivor's head, especially if you don't have add-ons, right? And we're not considering add-ons. So lethality, just a basic M1 killer. Map pressure, no, she can't really fly around. Slowdown, yeah, she does have a slowdown. It's not as consistent as we would want it to be, but it is part of her mechanic to be able to put traps on people's heads, and then once a generator is finished, they have this timer go up, and if they don't take the trap off their heads in time, they die, right? So with add-ons, you can kind of get more like cheeky kills that way, but for the most part, it will take up. It's just there to kill time, and you would have to be pretty unlucky, or just, I don't know, like when I'm a survivor and I play against Pig, and I'm trying to, I think about my route to try and take off the hat, right? To take off the trap. And a lot of people don't realize that, like, so they'll choose a route and then they'll just try to commit to that route, You know what I mean? But if I see the pig like getting looped or chasing somebody in this one area with, you know, that the box, you know, the hat box, then I will just choose another box, even though like this one's much closer, right? Because one of the things that, you know, I feel like survivors are they, think is that they're entitled to be able to just go for that box, right? And then, well, if the pig gets me, then the pig's a tunneler, right? Or, oh, why does she, you know, want to get me? I have the hat on my head. I'm, you know, theoretically I'm already dead already, right? Omae wa mo shinderu. But that's not the case. That's not guaranteed. And those hats are super inconsistent. So if I'm the pig and I see you doing one right in front of me, of course I'm gonna like grab you off that thing. Absolutely, I'm gonna grab you off that thing, or I'm gonna chase you off it and down you, and I will hook you, and then, like, you know, most survivors will be like, oh, you know, that's such a misplay. You know what I mean? She should be focusing on other survivors. Well, no, because I'm not guaranteed that hat kill. Now, if there's a survivor here in front of me and he's in this strong looping structure, you know, I might and I see you over there, then of course I want to go for you. Obviously, if there's something going on here, right, and I hit that survivor, sends him flying into another looping structure, you know, that's fine. He's injured. I might again choose to go for you and in that box. So think about that before you know commit to that box, because if I'm that survivor, I'm gonna choose a box that is nowhere near where the chase will be. All right. So there's that. I got it off my chest. Give me one sec, guys. San Pellegrino, good stuff. So moving on to tracking. Um, kind of. Because the survivors are now in like a mini game, and they're moving around the map, you know, more because they have to, you know, get the hats off them. You see a lot more of them. You notice a lot more things. So I don't know if that's considered tracking. Maybe just a small, like a low tier amount of trapping, but tracking. So yeah. Anyway, overall, pig, I would say, um, you know, it's because those traps on her, that she the reverse bear traps, they're so inconsistent. They're only really there for a slowdown. I would say that this person is a mid tier, a C tier killer. I mean, I know that you guys want to talk about like the dash, right? Um, and the crouch. And yes, with add-ons, they can be really good. Uh, and but they're just not C plus level. You know what I mean? Like, I know you can do like really cool like sneak attacks, or like during a loop you decide to crouch and it kind of spooks the survivor and then you're able to get that hit. You could absolutely do that, right? But overall, that's just not enough. You know what I mean? It's just not enough. It's the same way with Myers. It's like, oh yeah, that insta down, it's super fire, right? But there's but he still gets looped the same way. You know what I mean? He doesn't change how the looping is really. You know what I mean? You know, when the piggy is crouched during a looping session, right? If the survivor's already aware and you guys are trying to do the loop, it's you're still doing you start doing mind games, right? You're still doing 50-50s. So it doesn't give you like a competitive edge necessarily, right? A more of an advantage. It's like turning, you know, yeah. It's just more about mind games at that point. So I think that yes, C is pretty good, and yeah, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I like playing Pig. Piggy is like probably like my second most played. But yeah. Let's see. Ah, yes, the clown. The clown. Well, lethality. Can he end loops? Um, he can make the survivors drop pallets. You know, but that's not downing the survivor, right? That's not ending chases. So I mean, but he has something for loops, so I'll give him a little bit of that, right? So like low tier lethality, loops. Does he have map pressure? No, he's not able to travel very fast. I know that the rework will give him some amount of like just give him a new mechanic. It's really hard to evaluate it because I really don't see the amount of like sort of like you're not gonna play differently against clown when that happens, right? Maybe just a little bit, but for the most part you're gonna drop that pallet. You're still gonna the anesthetic bottle, you're just gonna drop that pallet. So um does this person have slowdown? No, unfortunately no. Does this person have tracking? No, again no. So there's really not a lot really going for him. He has like this little tiny way to try and deal with loops, but often not. It's not in enough an advantage to down people. I know that a lot of newer survivors, when they play against Clown, they feel that he's oppressive because, like, what am I supposed to do with that? You know what I mean? What am I supposed to do when the Clown, and sometimes they'll drop pallets, pre-drop pallets, but like because let's just say if someone who has played this game, a killer with like 1,200 hours or something like 1,000 hours into the game, he's gonna know basic looping and mind gaming, right? And so he's able to throw the bottle in a way where they would have to run into it or drop the pallet or something, right? But newer survivors feel that it's oppressive because they think that the cloud is doing that. It's not the cloud. It's really just the fact that the killer actually knows how to do looping, and most newer survivors don't really understand that concept. They just either drop the pallet, go for the vault, or they don't know the mind games and the 50-50s. So that's why a lot of people like the newer players, they hate clown. But when you're playing against for the majority of the community, or the veterans in the community, clown is not really all that scary. In fact, it's probably the least scary killer out of this. I know it's very sad because I actually like playing clown and Mr. Puddles, but I'm gonna put him in D. Right? It's hard for me to do so. So from D to Spirit. Jeez. Spirit. Now, let's see. She's probably one of the most like Nurse. Like there's very little counterplay to Nurse. A decent Spirit has also very little counterplay. In fact, all you really need to be able to do is probably have decent headphones. Like you need to be able to listen very well to what's going on around you. All right. So, and then we're considering meta perks, right? So like if you really want it, you can run Strider because a lot of the top players, or not the top players, but the more seasoned players, they like to run Iron Will because it allows them to do really nice, looping or just like cheeky plays, during looping structures. Uh, so the Spirit, yeah, the Spirit lethality. Does she down people? Like she's the M1 killer, but the fact that she's able to go, she's able to become invisible. She's able to phase. She gets like a speed boost, and then she can't see other people, but she can see scratch marks. She can listen. Right, that's the key right there. And she could just catch up to survivors and then just down them from there. So it's almost like a nurse blink in a way, right? Um, but the thing is that spirit doesn't take as much time to master um, than nurse. So a lot of players, they feel like it's just they don't, it doesn't feel good to lose to, you know, a spirit, right? Because I mean, even a good spirit, the ceiling, the skill ceiling is not as high as a nurse, so you kind of like, you kind of feel kind of like gypped out a little bit. But all in all, lethality pretty high. Um, she's able to deal with, you know, like pallets and windows by, you know, using mind games really well. So it's just about how well you mind game at that point. Um, and for the most part, the mind game can give you the answer just by listening really well. Um, does she have map pressure? Well, she does. You know, her phasing allows her to travel fast. Um, you know, so I would say like a mid-level amount of travel, map pressure. Does she have slowdown? Nope. Does she have tracking? Nope, not terribly. But because of her kit, she's able to get, she's able to down people very quickly. Um, Probably not as fast as Nurse, but still like pretty darn fast. So, uh, all in all, if you guys have never played against like a decent spirit, and God forbid if she, oh my God, like Nurse doesn't even need add-ons, right? And her add-ons may or may not be all that great, but Spirit has some pretty nasty add-ons, and I think in most tournaments, they're not allowed to have add-ons, or for these characters, exactly for these characters like Nurse and Spirit, they're not allowed to have add-ons just because of how powerful they are, and the fact that they don't even need them. But yeah, I think Spirit deserves S for the most part. Yes, yeah, it's just that mean. Legion. Yes, Legion. Toxic killer, in a way. Um, so Legion, in terms of lethality, again, kind of like what Wraith is. She's really good at getting that first hit. Really good at getting that first hit. Um, the last hit, you gotta go through the normal process, right, of looping. There's no tricks, right? You gotta be good at running, uh, running the chase, right? So I'm not gonna, yeah. So not so much in lethality. Map pressure, yeah. I considered that the fact that he goes into fatal frenzy, or she goes into fatal frenzy, they go into fatal frenzy, and he's able to injure the survivor and then find the other survivors nearer, and he does get a notable speed boost, as well as just being able to vault over pallets and windows. So there, right? There's that. Now, um, does this person have slowdown? In a way, yes. You keep injuring the survivors; they have to mend. Better yet, they might even want to heal. So that's great for you if they do heal, but at the very least they have to mend. So you have a little bit of slowdown. So that still adds up. Um, does this person have tracking? Yeah, this this guy has a decent level of tracking, and I think that Legion is one of those like M1 killers, this the C tier type of killers that do really well with certain perk builds. Like one of his best perk builds is Enduring Spirit Fury, right? That combination of perks really helps Legion out. Number one, because he's an M1 killer. Enduring is very good, right? Some people argue that, oh yeah, but like brutal strength is you know better because it allows you to break the pallet. But sometimes you don't always want to break the pallet, right? You just want to get out of that pallet stun and then, you know, resume the chase, because that person could be, they're not even at the loop anymore, right? So enduring is much better in that case. and a combination with Spirit Fury. On some maps, there's just so many pallets. There are just so many pallets, and not only that, but while you're in that power, and you cancel it at a pallet, and they decide to drop it on you, that pallet stun, because of enduring, reduces the amount of stun duration from pallet stuns, actually takes you out of your power faster. So some survivors have the mistake of dropping pallets on Legion when they have enduring Spirit Fury, and at the very least, it gets you that one down that they weren't expecting. Now, even with that build, there are some flaws to it, because they end up pre-dropping those pallets. But yeah, so that's the way to combat enduring Spirit Fury. But Legion is actually pretty good. Even his add-ons, they're not like overly powerful. They can waste a lot of the survivor's time, but all in all, like, he does really well with perks. I would say, I would throw him in C. I know a lot of people think that he's at like C minus, but in terms of his his um his abilities, right, with certain perk builds, I think he can put up a pretty good fight. All right, moving on. Ooh, Plague. Now, I've played a little bit of Plague, and I think that she's really good. However, I haven't really like got down to the expert level yet. I would not say I maybe tinkered around the advanced level, but not expert level. Plague. Let's go over Plague's categories. So Plague, um, Plague's lethality. Depending on how you see it, like she's able to affect a lot of people, but for the most part, it's without her her range power, it's just an M1 killer, right? So I would say low to mid tier lethality, because she is able to basically have a flamethrower. You know what I mean? And in some loops, that is very in some loops, you're able to avoid it. But again, the mind games. If this person knows Plague really well, or the survivor knows how to play against Plague really well, it's in whoever's that person's favor. But all in all, I would say he has like low mid tier lethality, which is still higher than most M1 killers. And yes, she can infect everybody, but it's not necessarily all that consistent. It's very situational, right? Very conditional. But I would say, like, what, I'll bump into a mid tier amount of lethality. Let's go to map pressure. Map pressure. Is she able to pressure the map? Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you spread the sickness, right, once you get a survivor down, it kind of gets the ball rolling. You start spitting on gens, as like, let's just say the first two gens, even if the first two gens pop, right, they still have to do 3 more gens. So like, eventually they're gonna have to get sick, right, if you keep spitting on the generators. So, and they have to go for the unhooks, and this little things like that. And if you're really running the loops well enough, spitting on the windows and the pallets and stuff like that, not just the survivors, getting them sick, they will eventually spread it to other people. And if they don't want to stay sick, they're going to start cleansing, which is good for you because you get your power, yada yada yada. So it's just the right amount of time to know when to start getting people sick, and to start using your flamethrower. I call it the flamethrower power. Yeah. So, does she have slowdown? Yeah, kind of. You're sick, and you want to cleanse. You can. That takes up some amount of time. If not, they'll be injured. So it's really it's again very conditional. Does she have map pressure? No, she just travels like any M1 killer. Does she have tracking? I would say low mid tier level of tracking. you get to hear people coughing, you get to see the fumes from some places, and they do leave. They do sound louder. It counters like Iron Will, so there's some amount of tracking there. So, but sometimes some really good survivors can hide from you. But yeah, I would say mid level, right? If they stay sick, mid level amount of tracking. But overall, let's see. Man, I don't know if I want to put her in B minus or C plus. Because I just think that like she's good, you know what I mean? Almost want to just put her in B minus. Uh, um, it's just really weird on how to play her, because you start off with one corrupted well. I'm kind of inclined to put her in B minus. You know what I mean? Like I, yeah, yeah. I kind of want to go there. I kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah, I do. I want to put her in B minus. She takes a lot of skill to play. It's really about the momentum and the pace of the game with Plague. When to go for the corrupt well, or when to start to keep on infecting, right? So that takes a lot of decision making. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I go straight into my corrupt. You can. There are perk builds that can surround around that sort of playstyle, but for the most part, it's it's a the game state is not stagnant, right? So you're gonna have to constantly be making those kind of decisions back and forth, as well as just trying to be mechanically, strong with your power. So I want to put her in B minus. I think she deserves it. Um, Sorry guys, the Cannibal and Doctor, you guys are still at C plus, but man, I think Plague deserves that B minus slot, and yeah, yeah, I feel confident there. Ghostface, Ghostface. So, he's an M1 killer, right? Lethality, yeah, I would say he has mid tier level lethality. He can expose people, right? Stalk people and then expose them. Um, but what also makes him kind of tricky, right? In looping situations is that he's able to go into stealth, go into crouch. He's able to um during looping situations remove his red stain, and that throws off a lot of survivors that use that red stain to sort of figure out where that person's at. So, uh, do I think his lethality is above mid tier? No, but it's a very solid mid tier level of lethality. Map pressure, not so much. He's just an M1 killer in that respect. Uh, Tracking, not so much. I mean, most stealthy killers, they might see more than non-stealthy killers, because the terror radius alerts the survivors, so they're usually more careful. But with stealth killers, they tend to stick around the gen a little bit longer or something like that. But yeah, slow down, not so much. M1 killer, right? So Ghostface, do I put you in C, or do I put you in C plus? So it's like he's almost right in between those, right? Because I think he is stronger than Michael Myers. It's kind of like the combination of Michael Myers and Piggy, right? He's able to crouch to remove his red stain, and still attack people while stealth. Um, he's able to expose people like Michael Myers. So it's kind of a little bit of both. And you know, if you master Ghostface, you're mastering like looping and just understanding that whole mind game of where the red stain goes, and if you understand that, then you're going to be a really good Ghostface player. On top of that, if you stalk people, you 99 people, you let them go. Next time you see them, right, going for the unhook or whatever, you can get them there too. So you're able to save your stock in that sense. So it's just there's a lot of decision making when it comes to Ghostface. It's not just like, oh, stock at a 100 and then chase, right? There's a lot of preemptive planning, right? So I would, and with that, I think he gets an edge over the C tier killers. I think he could do really well with in that respect. Where Bubba kind of brute forces pallets, um, it always has the threat of insta downing. Like the thing is about Bubba is that he's also just able to if they try to go for the 1-for-1, um, that's that's the bare minimum that they have to do if you're proxy camping or not. Ghostface is kind of the same way, but you've made an intricate decision to 99 somebody, so that the next time you got to just keep track of your players, right? The next time you see that person, boom, you get him to 100 when he's going for the unhook, or when he's in the middle of nowhere, right? He's just he's in a dead zone. You can just get him right there. So with good skill play, I think C plus, very nice. um oh, what do you know? demo Demo pup. um that's currently the killer that I main right now, although I do enjoy Trapper and Piggy and Doctor. Yeah. But Demo Boy is my favorite currently, and the one that I really feel confident about. In terms of lethality, I think I would rate his lethality mid tier for sure. There's gonna be a lot of times when you're gonna be able to get that shred, even without the rat liver. Even though rat liver is so good, it punishes them for going for uh the window, right, a shack palette, or it punishes them for just being um understanding where they're gonna go into this narrow space. Like if they don't go for the window, that's fine. They're going for the pallet, you can still get them there, and sometimes they'll even drop the pallet and you get both of them, which is absolutely awesome. uh yeah, and then not only that, but he's able to preemptively destroy pallets as well. That's a big deal. So in terms of lethality, I would keep him in mid tier. um is he able to get really easy shreds? No, but he's able to get conditional shreds that are easy, right? Those are really easy to get, and you can punish people for doing that, uh does he have map pressure? Yeah, in a form, in a way, yeah. He I mean, not in a way, but like, yeah, he does. If you place your portals well, you have map pressure for sure. Even if they cleanse it, right, which will move on to slowdown. Even if they cleanse it, they're still eating up time, right? And not only that, but if you're smart, you can put two portals in the same area, right, not right next to each other, but you know what I mean, in the same area. And so when they spend time cleansing it, you can still come back and deliver that map pressure. So yeah, I would say mid-tier level of map pressure if you are able to place your portals well. Does he have slowdown? Not terribly. Like I said, if they decide to cleanse the portals, uh that's a form of slowdown, but it's not as consistent, right? So I would say a low tier amount of slowdown. Does he have tracking? Again, with those portals, that's the thing. Yeah, you're able to track people when they're around the portals, but other than that, it's not terrible. It's not a lot. You can put the portals literally on the generators, but it keeps them. It allows them to see it, and then you might have them cleanse it. When you're busy chasing a survivor, but at least you'll know they're there, right? Which leads to the other category, which is tracking, right? So you're able to track those survivors with the portals, but it's not terribly consistent. It just depends on how you decide to go about placing your portals. Do you place them at gens, kind of use it as like kind of like a surveillance tactic, or do you put them, or you put two in one area and then they end up cleansing one, this and that. Um, but it's not as consistent as you always want it to be. But I'll give him like, you know, like a few points, some low tier ratings for his those categories. At least he's not getting 0, right? So let's see. Demogorgon, overall, where do I rate you at? What are the flaws to Demogorgon, I should say? The flaws of the Demogorgon is that he can be run like an M1 killer. People can run him really tightly, even with shred. It's still mind game, right? Um, so you're gonna sometimes get people that are really good and run those loops super tight, and sometimes, you know, they'll just like, you know, outplay you, or they just really know how to go about it, because they can go for the pallet drop fake, right? That's a thing. So you open up, right, for the shred, right, and they can either you know, drop the pallet. If you're too close, they'll drop the pallet. If you know, if you're a little bit, you know, running the loop a little looser, they're gonna try and fake it, or they just like keep running you, and you lose distance because you're slowing down. uh but with rat liver, obviously you don't slow down. But yeah, anyway, uh man, I kind of want to put him in B minus, um along with Plague. mm, hmm do Yeah, the fact that you have map pressure, I think it's pretty big. It's pretty important. It's so hard. It's so hard. Yeah, I would say that Demigorgon, um is he above average? Because to me, C plus is kind of like average. Or is See, the thing is about Demigorgon is that all his advantages also have like some amount of drawbacks, right? They have some sort of condition, right? So it's not like he gets just like free things, you know, the same way that like that um Freddy has, right? Like he can just teleport to that gen. Obviously, you can't teleport to a survivor, but you know, you do get into fast travel, and you're probably gonna just kick the gen because you have Pop Goes the Weasel, right? So like something like that. Demogorgon doesn't really have that. He has here. We'll allow you to place portals. They can be cleansed, right? And what's it called? So it's strategic in that way. So it's not overly strong. There's counterplay to that. In terms of shred, there's some amount of counterplay in certain looping situations, but all in all, I think he's pretty fair. I think. I don't think I mean, he can do really well. He can be really efficient, but you know what? I want to keep him at C plus, because like the fact that, okay, if Plague didn't have that one corrupted wall, she would be in C plus for sure. The fact that you can just go ahead and grab that as almost like a snowballing effect, like I feel like B minus is perfect. Demigorgon still needs setup time. He still needs a little bit of setup time, um, and you know, he's good. He's fair. Is he oppressive? No. Can he have some really good games? Yes, but he's not oppressive by any means, and I don't think. Yeah, he can have really good games, but yeah, yeah. You know what? C plus. Love you, Demo. All right, moving on to Oni. Lethality. All right, he's just an M1 killer until he's not. Uh, until he gets his power and becomes Super Billy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, um, Lethality, I would keep him at uh like mid high, because you have to get into your power, and that's the counterplay to him. Don't let him get his power, right? I know that sounds like easier said than done, kind of, language, but don't let him get his power. It's if you can't, if you don't know how to loop, just pre-drop those pallets. Just don't let him get that hit. Once he gets that hit, it's just, oh man, it's just nutty, right? Does he have map pressure? Again, he can, right? So I would say mid tier. I would say a mid tier map pressure. Um Maybe mid to high tier. Just because you still have to get your power, right? But it's damn fast. It is very fast. What about slowdown? Nope. No slowdown. Pretty much just an M1 killer in that respect. Tracking. Those blood things, they're long gone usually, right? But sometimes they'll linger around in a certain area, but they're usually long gone. If they drop those 2 blood, they have so much time to get away. But yeah, I'll give them like some low tier rating in terms of tracking. Not all that great, but it's something. It's at least something. You're going in the right direction, right? Unless this guy is just like going in a complete circle in the map. But yeah, it is not like it's nothing. Where does he stand? Um, he's not really add-on reliant, although he does have some pretty mean add-ons, and it just changes his numbers a little bit, and then he just does really, really well. But does he need that? No. Does he do really, really well with strong meta perk builds? Hell yeah. Kind of in the way that the Legion does. Well, more so because he's just Oni is just a stronger killer. But yeah, if you get infectious, barbecue, corrupt, just name it. I mean, just as long as you have that infectious, you're able to snowball, you're able to slug. It gets pretty dirty. I played Oni for just a little bit. I'm not that great at him, and even then, it was easier than Billy. You know what I mean? The chainsaw takes a little finesse, right? But the Oni is like, man, that flicker, that the 90 degree, that 180 or something. It takes some time to practice, but it's not like Billy's thing, right? It's a lot easier to manage. So I'm gonna put him in A tier. Yeah. Um. Is he oppressive sometimes? Yeah, with the right perk build, he can be oppressive. I feel like infectious is just infectious monitor is just such a nasty combo on him. But yeah, and the more that he gets his power, he's able to, just be kind of like OP broken in that way. So okay, let's see. Mm, Deathslinger, Deathslinger. Lethality. I would say mid level of lethality. I understand a lot of people are gonna just like argue against that, but here's my argument for mid. Not for him not being high tier lethality. I mean, he always has the threat of being high tier lethal, right? But there's one thing that gets in his way, um, and it's usually dedicated servers. Dedicated servers. If it wasn't for dedicated servers, if your ping was I mean, just like in any FPS game, if your ping is better, if your ping is ideal, you're gonna get, or the ping situation, the latency situation is good. you're gonna do really well with Deathslinger. If it's not, like, you're gonna like just it's just gonna blow your mind. But I respect Deathslinger. I think for sure he's not as dependent as um Huntress on like those indoor maps and all that stuff. I think he's able to do well in indoor maps a lot better. But yeah, he's in terms of lethality, I want to give him high, but it's just dedicated service can really cut you out of some hits. I know a lot of people are like that. But yeah, let's go on to his map pressure. Not so much. He's just an M1 killer. Just walks like normal at 110 speed. Slowdown. Kind of. He can make people mend, right? You know, you can just break the chain, let him go, move on. You know, yada yada yada. So there's just a little tiny amount of slowdown. Let's see, tracking, not so much. But is he? So, in terms of lethality, I want to give him. So I think he's stronger than Huntress. I think he does have an edge on Huntress for sure, and I want to put him at B plus. You know, Hag has like this sort of inevitability thing about her, but you know, Deathslinger is kind of like I've talked a lot about it on my stream. It's more about like a coin flip when it comes to Deathslinger, and if you're a gambling man, Deathslinger is up your alley. Potentially very powerful. And I respect good Deathslingers. That's okay. So Pyramid Head. Whoa, man. They changed a few things about him. Thank goodness, because he was just eating people up. Is he a little bit more fair now? Yeah, I think he is. But he still has his sort of issues. Okay. So, lethality. Is he lethal? Does he end chases? Potentially, yes. He has a way to shut down loops really well. I mean, good survivors can maybe run pyramid heads, but at the same time, it's all about that mind game. You know what I mean? At that level, it's all about like, you know, skill. But pyramid head has that that offensive ability. He's the one that is saying, "Hey, the ball is now in your court. Like, you know, try and get away from me." You know what I mean? Like he's the challenger, right? And he, you know, like, so survivors have to sort of like be really on their toes, because he has ways that if you are running around a pallet loop, he could put down you know the sludge or whatever, and then he can go for his power when you're at the pallet, and if he chooses right, you know, he gets the hit. Now granted, that power is a little bit slow coming out. That's why a lot of pyramid heads will miss. But if he guesses right, if he thinks to hit it right, he can get you right at that pallet situation. However, if you're a good survivor and you recognize the sound of him dipping his sword into the ground, you can go for that 50-50 play. You know what I mean? Where do you think he's gonna go? So it's just it's a real mind game, but the fact that Pyramid Head pressures the survivor to sort of be able to think like that makes them very formidable. I would say mid-tier, mid-level. It's not as it's not like Doctor or Demogorgon. He does have an edge above those guys when it comes to that those kind of mind games, right? When it comes to those windows, for sure, you're gonna get it, right? Doctor maybe, Demo if you're good at demo, like if you had a lot of hours on demo and you notice that their items are about to when the items disappear, that means they commit to the vault, right? Yada yada yada. Right. So let's not get into that, but the fact that Pyramid Head is just so he's just like he's offensive, right? So he puts a lot of pressure on the survivors to know what he does. Otherwise, he's just gonna run them over. Okay, moving on. Map pressure. Nope. M1 killer in that respect. Not gonna have a lot of map pressure. He has a little sludge, something like that, but the cage doesn't really exactly help necessarily. It saves him time, but yeah. Um, let's go on with slowdown. I mean, yeah, like how long does it take for you to crouch through the sludge if you really don't want to step on it, or you just go around it, right? It's not that much. Tracking. You know, sometimes I've stepped on that because it's just a little tiny barbed wire, and I'm like, oh my god, like, and it's just like I see it. It's just like a little pixel of fucking sludge, and I'm like, it blows my effing mind that I got tormented because of it, but it happens. So he has some amount of tracking in that respect. So it just really depends on if the survivors are really paying attention or just the game is just like that. Anyway, where would I put this guy? Now I'm gonna put him in A minus. Okay, I'm gonna put him in A minus. He might be at A level, but the fact of the matter is, like Deathslinger, and he doesn't have fast travel, right? These guys, if they just had like fast travel, they, you know, he some really big maps he still has problems with. So, but the fact that he's an A minus really comes to the fact that, like, yes, he can pressure looping situations, but also he's really good at dealing with meta perks. Things like borrowed time. When you go for the unhook, that's not a hook, that's a cage. And not only that, but you don't he circumvents decisive strike in that manner, and he's able to just mooring people if they're under the last hook. So there's a lot of like if he didn't have that, he would probably be in B plus, hands down, right? Like he might even be even lower. But the fact that he's able to do that is just, it makes him a force to be reckoned with. So I want to keep him at A minus. Some people might say that he might be in B plus because of that, because of you know, just the not being able to pressure the map. But man, he's just, you know, I mean, he might be pretty high on the list, but I still think that because that he's able to just do that, it's just, I mean, a lot of survivors rely on those perks. So and it just randomly counters random perks like deliverance and and we'll make it or something. So yeah, like it's just weird that they made a killer like this. That's, yeah. So anyway, I think it's fine to keep him there. He does have his faults, but you know, he might be in B plus. But meta, I know it's not part of the category, but just think about it. The meta perks, he's able to destroy lobbies because of that. Okay, too much on Pyramid Head. Blight, blight, lethality. Um, you know, a lot of people, a lot of players that play blight a lot, I noticed that they will. I noticed that they will turn their sensitivity really high on their mouse, so they're able to curve and give that hit. I don't know. Same thing with people like that play Billy. They'll do that sensitivity. They'll mess with it, but I'm sorry. Let me turn this off real quick. Um, but yeah, if you play like that, I guess that's counting. That's not necessarily add-on, so we'll count it as such. But I guess it's like a I wouldn't say mid tier. Oh yeah, maybe mid tier level of lethality. But he's for the most part still gets run by normal looping situations. He does have mad pressure though. He absolutely does have mad pressure. Let's see. Let's go in terms of slowdown. No, not so much. In terms of tracking, no, not so much. So, I kind of want to put him at like, I kind of want to put him as C. But yeah. C or C plus. I almost just want to put him at C. Honestly. But really good Blight players, they can get those hits though. They can get those hits by that, turning up their DPI in their mouse. So, yeah, I'm gonna. You know what? I know you guys might have a problem with this, but I'll keep him as C because I don't feel like he's overly oppressive in that respect. But at the same time, is he like the rest? Is his gimmick stronger than the other guys? So hard. I've seen really good Blight players do really well, but at the end of the day, this is kind of like the situation. So, hard to say. You know what? Let's put him in C plus. Yeah, because, well, you know what? The add-ons too. The add-ons probably help him out too. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna keep him as C because I really don't know if he has a sort of like edge that these guys do. He has that gimmick. He has that gimmick. Is it good enough for him to down survivors and such? Does he do well with perk builds? Yes. Does he need add-ons? And not necessarily, because you could just turn your sensitivity up. But I want to. You know what? Because of his mad pressure, I kind of want to keep him right here. I know that Legion also has the same sort of issue, but I kind of wanna. Yeah, we'll keep him messy. Keep him messy for sure. Okay, twins. All right, so this is the last one. Let's get right into it. So, the twins. Whoa. Lethality. I would say mid tier level. Victor is a force to be reckoned with. Charlotte's is the M1 killer, but that Victor, baby, you gotta respect the baby. Mid tier level of lethality. Let's see. Map pressure. Yeah. So much in fact that it's pretty much the play style of the twins. To be able to put Charlotte in one place, to have Victor go out and handle business. So you hit somebody with Charlotte, you send Victor out, you follow the blood trail, and then you just and God forbid if there's an almost done generator or there's someone at the hook, you can keep Charlotte nearby, send out Victor. A lot of map pressure there. I would say probably high tier, mid to high tier amount of map pressure. So let's go with let's go into slowdown. Does he have do they have slowdown? When Victor launches himself at somebody, they can it takes time for them to take it off, I guess. But overall, I don't think so. Not so much. Do they have tracking ability? Somewhat, somewhat. There's low tier amount of tracking ability because you have Victor again, um, but they're not gonna really help you find your first survivor necessarily. It's more about finding survivors while there's already like a current situation scenario happening. So, uh, so that's those categories for twins. And so, where do I want to place her? Jeez, you know she gets a lot of crap for being like a kind of like a camping killer, but that's what makes her so strong. It honestly is to have that sort of map pressure. I kind of want to put her in B minus, but a lot of people don't like to play her because you're basically camping. You're basically doing like a yeah. You're basically doing like a at the very least a proxy camping strategy. So, but it's strong. It is strong, and that's the only way to really to get a leg up. You got to play on a you know just pretty much like on a like a scummy level, you know. So, uh, but you're strong nonetheless. You're strong, and I'll put uh yeah. But you know what? A lot of people don't like playing here because of that reason. But if you play her, if you camp, if you slug, not saying that like there aren't situations where you have to do that, but like that's just this killer is just designed to do that. In fact, um, especially camping, slugging is pretty much almost every killer should sort of like practice making those decisions. When to slug, when's the optimal time to slug, when's the optimal time to pick somebody up, do you have time to pick somebody up, etc etc. Slugging is just the nature of that. But with Charlotte, it's almost like it's an absolute it's just it's integrated into her strategy to get the leg up on survivors, because you can just guard the basement, a hook, a generator that's almost done, you send out Victor. So I'll keep her at B minus. But yeah, she's a it's not the fact that she's strong, it's the fact that like she's just not nice. You know, she's just not nice to play with. But anyway, that's the video. If you stuck around for that long, thank you so much. I decided to do this video. I know it wasn't a short video, but uh, I hope you guys enjoy it. It was a bit of fun for me. So um, yeah, just be able to talk about all these killers and just to give you guys my perspective on these killers. So yeah, thank you so much for your support. Come see me at my stream. I know I've been playing a lot of other games, but I always like to dip back into DBD because you know it's just nice to play this game casually. Because I know that when people play a lot of this game, and I have, you know, just in terms of like being obsessed with it and just like pour in so many hours, you kind of get a little burnt out from it. And it's always nice to have a palate cleanser, you know. Anyway, I gotta end this video. It's hella long. You guys have a nice day, a nice year. I'll see you guys in the next one.